As soon as Masai opened his eyes, immense pressure collapsed in on his skull. His temples throbbed with continuous fury. The light assaulted his vision with relentless malice. Reality itself bent in on him. With unsteady legs and an uneven stomach, Masai made his way to the kitchen. After consuming a greasy breakfast, Masai finally stumbled out of his family home. The horrid grip of a drunken night slightly lessened, but not by much. Despite the pain, Masai grinned as the morning light blared down upon him. There he was, Masai Iados, a full-fledged cleric of Anakanti. He had already gotten dressed into his new black silk robes. He grabbed his Ankh staff tightly, and he marveled over his new look. Masai's smile was wide as it could go. His dream had finally been realized. Masai left his house and he moved into the throng of the crowd. As soon as he did, the people around him beamed curious glances at him. Then they averted their attentions altogether. They parted ways for him, which allowed Masai a little more comfort and space. Despite the fact that most people appeared discontent and uneasy around his unsavory presence, Masai continued to smile. When people beheld his delight, it often amplified the discomfort they openly expressed. After all, a happy Anakanti cleric was a strange sight indeed. The Orko district was on the other side of Ijikos, so it took some time to get to the shrine within the district. The shrine shared many of the same features and exterior aesthetics as the shrine from his home district. It stood 3 stories tall and had a nearly identical exterior. Masai planned to check in with the bishop of the shrine first, and then he would find out about his temple-issued house. A tall, lanky cleric with a shaved head stood outside the entrance to the shrine. Masai approached him.
Excuse me, fellow brother. Can you please tell me where I can find Bishop Morna?
The cleric gave Masai a vexed stare.
Listen here, newbie. I know you're excited about joining the order and all, but cut the brother crap.
The cleric returned his attention to the sky.
She's inside on the 3rd floor.
Masai viewed the sky as well. Brilliant azure infinity stretched overhead, and there wasn't a cloud in sight.
What are you looking at?
The cleric responded in a grave tone.
What business is it of yours?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to offend.
Masai waited for him to reply.
So, I'm Masai. What's your name?
The cleric remained silent.
Can I have your name?
No.
Masai only waited a moment longer before he headed inside. The incredible amount of joy he had experienced earlier that morning evaporated. A growing sense of annoyance festered within him, but he batted it away. Nothing would ruin his day. The interior of the shrine had a similar setup to the other shrines Masai had visited. Clean white tiles covered the floors, and beautiful images stared at Masai from the walls. A craftsman must have taken a lot of time to perfectly capture their view of Ar and the visage of the great Anakanti. Many of the murals had comforting themes, while others portrayed unsettling connotations. Rather than go directly to the 3rd floor, Masai wandered around the entire shrine. Little offices and supply closets spanned across the 1st floor. A pair of staircases went both up and down toward the far wall of the shrine. The basement and the 2nd floor had many embalming chambers. Unlike the other temples of the primary 5, the citizens usually never came to the Anakanti shrines or temples for worship. For those who actually wanted to pay homage to Lady Death, little chapels were on the 1st floor awaiting their usage. Much as he had expected, no one prayed in the chapel. On the 2nd floor, white tiled floors and small embalming rooms dominated the layout. These rooms had windows, and several rooms had access to small balconies. As Masai made his way to the 3rd floor stairwell, he came upon a very interesting relief. Several cloaked figures stood together, their faces obscured in their hoods. Mummified people surrounded them. Masai cringed a little as he beheld the ghastly faces. On either side of the relief, living people ran in fear from both the cloaked figures and the zombies. Masai studied the mural carefully. His stomach swirled in on itself. The hair on the back of his neck felt slick with unnatural sledge. A tingling pressure throbbed in the areas just under his belly button. A female voice asked,
Quite fearsome, aren't they?
Masai shifted around and beheld the speaker, Bishop Morna. She was a taller, plump woman with a round face, almond-shaped eye sockets, with soft sky-blue eyes, and a thin-lipped smile. Her dark brown hair had been tied into 6 intricate braids, and they extended off of her scalp in various places. Bishop Morna stood beside him and gazed up at the mural.
Are they really fearsome? Or is it merely that we created and continued to perpetuate that terrible illusion?
That sounds like Xur sympathizer talk. You're not a Xur sympathizer, are you?
Bishop Morna tilted her head slightly. Masai stepped away from the relief.
I am a sympathizer for Anakanti, as we all are, aren't we?
Of course.
Bishop Morna gave him a little bow, but her eyes took on a predatory, hungry nature.
Though some of us are ill-informed about how to best serve Lady Death. Congratulations, by the way, on joining our order.
Masai returned the slight bow and lowered his eyes.
I am reporting for my first duty, my lady.
She gestured for him to follow.
Let's discuss this in my office. Who knows who might be lurking in the hallways?
Bishop Morna led Masai to a great room with a spacious set of windows and a beautiful view of the river. The Nefiri necropolis stood beyond the river. A high-quality table sat near the balcony with a chair on either side of it. Bishop Morna glided to the nicer of the chairs and gestured to the plain one.
Please, sit.
Despite the austere appearance to it, the chair felt very comfortable.
So, you're all ready for your first duty as a cleric? I have the perfect first task for you. However, I have a business proposition for you.
The back of Masai's throat itched.
Business proposition? What kind of business proposition?
A wolfish grin spread across her face.
How would you like to make a lot of extra gold?
Masai frowned.
What would I be doing exactly?
Oh, keeping your eyes open and your ears to the ground? There are certain interested parties who want more information about the Xur. If you agree to let us know anything you find out, you'll earn a lot of extra money.
Masai shook his head.
I'm not interested, but thanks for the offer.
Bishop Morna sat back in her chair.
You don't have to answer now. You can always give me an answer later.
Again, Masai shook his head.
No, that's not necessary. I have no desire to betray anyone who belongs to the Order.
What if I doubled the rate? You could live a lot more like the Anointed, and perhaps live in a nicer place than the hovel we're going to give you for being a cleric.
I'd rather be a poor man than taint my soul with betrayal. Again, thank you for the consideration.
Bishop Morna leaned in closer, her fingers interlaced together. Her voice came in a very hushed whisper.
Well said. You'd be surprised about how many of our brothers and sisters are so easily swayed into betrayal. Keep your virtues strong. Our order is sicker than it appears. A great reckoning is approaching.
Masai moved towards her.
Is it typical to test clerics on their first days? Is the corruption truly so bad?
Bishop Morna eyed the doorway and the balcony.
There are enemy eyes everywhere, even among the bishops.
Masai's eyes narrowed slightly.
And what made you think I was capable of treachery?
Despite Masai's accusatory tone, Bishop Morna kept calm.
I didn't test you because I thought you were treacherous. I tested you because you seemed genuine. Be careful, Clericiatos. Don't doubt you're being watched. Now enough of this. If you linger too long, they'll grow suspicious.
Wait,
Masai glanced back over his shoulder for a second.
are you Xur?
Bishop Morna scoped around the room.
No, I belong to those who guard their efforts. No more about the Xur. Even uttering their name within an earshot will raise suspicion.
Would you have tested me had you not seen me inspecting the relief?
No, probably not as soon. Now, for your first task,
Her voice rose to a normal volume.
You're going to help one of our more seasoned clerics with several embalming sessions he has planned for later today. You're free until lunchtime, but after that, you're booked until nightfall.
Yes, Bishop. I assume the embalming will be done in one of the chambers below. What is the name of the cleric I'll be helping?
His name is Jayba Liliock, and he's a bit, well, to put it lightly, senile.
A smirk blinked on her face before it disappeared.
You're going to have some challenges working with him.
What sort of challenges?
Masai shifted in his seat.
If he's so senile, why is he allowed to do embalming? They're sacred rites.
That's very true, and we take embalming very seriously.
Bishop Morna sat back in her chair.
Jayba Liliock has been a cleric with us for 50 years. He's a sweet old man, and no one really has the heart to tell him he can't do embalming anymore. In truth, he's very good at embalming. In his prime, he was a master embalmer.
If that's the case, then what are the challenges you're referring to?
Once more, Bishop Morna smirked.
His mind snapped a long while ago, maybe 10 years back.
The bishop held back a giggle, but Masai saw the glee in her eyes.
I mean no disrespect, but could you please tell me what you find so amusing?
Oh, it's fine. I'll put it to you like this.
She allowed a giggle to escape her lips.
He thinks he's a little girl.
As Masai descended into the basement of the shrine, he heard a bizarre voice singing out.
There once was a little crocodile whose eyes were pretty and mean. He'd smile and frolic in the river so bright, and his scales of green. His favorite game was oh so fun. It involved the nearby village cats. The cats would sit in his mouth. They would scream in pain, and soon would come the village brats.
Masai stepped into the embalming room. An old, wrinkly man dressed in a very short pink dress sat on the ground and played with a pair of rag dolls. The dress looked too small for him in terms of length, but it didn't appear tight at all. Jayba continued to sing.
The children would weep as he ate their pets, and they'd beg to have them back. He would munch, 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 skin would rip and bones would crack. To sweeten the meal, he would spit them out and wait for the kids to come by. The stupid kids would try to get their pets, and it was their time to die.
Jayba's head bobbed to and fro, his gray locks tied into pigtails. Masai knocked on the door, but the old man kept singing.
The moral of the story is really clear. Don't go by the river with crocs. Stay away from their beguiling smiles, or you'll be croc poop under the docks.
Masai knocked again, this time much louder. Jayba finally stopped playing with the dolls and regarded him.
What do you want? Can't you see that I'm playing? I don't want to work on dead bodies right now. Can I please have 5 more minutes of playing?
A wave of discomfort struck Masai in the gut, so he said,
Sure.
Yay! You're so much nicer than the other clerics. They're all mean jerks. Do you want to play with me?
No thanks, but after 5 minutes, we'll start, okay?
Jayba had already forgotten him and delved back into his imagination. This time, he sang a tune about butterflies and how they ate people's souls. After 5 minutes, Masai bent down to Jayba.
Excuse me, Cleric Liliock, we should really start.
Immediately, the old man glared at him.
That's not my name! That's not my name! Don't call me that!
Masai stepped back.
Oh, is your name Jayba?
No! No one listens to me! That's not my name!
Okay, calm down.
Masai winced as he held his hands up.
So what's your name?
Jayba frowned.
You don't really care. You want me to work on those bodies.
No, I really care. Please tell me your name.
Jayba crossed his arms over his chest.
If you want me to play embalmer and tell you my name, Then you have to promise to play with me for an hour. After that, I'll play Embalmer for real. I promise.
But you said 5 minutes.
The old man interrupted Masai with his terrible shrieks.
Play with me! Play with me! Play with me!
And so, for the next hour, Masai played ragdolls with Jayba. To his relief, Jayba kept his word. The old man introduced himself as Naya. Although Naya agreed to work on the dead bodies, he did it with the annoying delight and immaturity of a child. When it came time to paint the symbols on the dead person's head, Naya also painted a full beard and mustache on the person's face. Thank Anakanti that all the paint turned gold and faded into the skin. Naya thought it was great fun to take the organs out, especially because they felt squishy. As if playing a gruesome game, Naya tossed them at Masai like a ball. Masai had to fill the body with natron while Naya covered it. Naya used 3 times the required amount of natron, but began to cry if Masai tried to take any of it away. Naya embalmed the next 3 bodies with the same caliber of chaos. He drew patches and monsters on one person's face. On the next, he covered a woman's breasts in golden paint. When Naya tossed Masai the organs during the second embalming, Masai caught them and threw them into the buckets of natron. This only encouraged Naya to play even wilder. Naya cackled as he threw the organs, and even Masai had to admit the humor and enjoyment from it. Granted, he would never do that beyond this experience, but Masai still found it enjoyable. The delight came to a screeching halt when they painted the symbol on the last body. Rather than the paint turning to gold, the flesh turned gray. As soon as Naya saw it, his impish glee faded. A mask of horror replaced his delight.
Oh no! Gray flesh! Gray flesh calls the Dark Ones! I don't want to see them! They scare me!
Naya crept closer to the door and gave Masai a whimper.
Good thing playtime is over. It was nice playing with you. Run away before the Dark Ones come to take you away.
What do you mean, take me away?
Rather than answer, Naya ran out of the room and disappeared. As soon as the old man had fled, Masai turned back to the body. It looked like a normal body, aside from the fact that the skin held the color of storm clouds. To his surprise, the body didn't smell like rot. It didn't take much imagination to identify who the Dark Ones might be. Even someone like Naya feared them, and that notion prodded at Masai's mind. So many people said so many things, and it was so difficult to discern where the truth began and the myth ended. Everyone, including Anakanti herself, protected this group with utter dedication. Sotek had been correct. If he wanted the truth about the Zur, then he would have to ask one himself. And so, Masai sat against the wall and waited. Several hours had gone by, and the sun had long since set. Many of the other clerics in the shrine had gone home for the night, and the building radiated with an odd sense of eerie quiet. Masai took deep breaths, and he watched the door in grim wonder. The Dark Ones. Naya had been absolutely terrified of them. And for the most part, society as a whole had a negative view on the Zur. Was it grounded in truth? Was Masai making a major mistake? His body ached and his stomach rumbled angrily. Slowly, Masai got up off the ground. His shoulders popped a little as he stretched. He yawned and then gave the doorway to the room one last look. A man stood in the doorway. Someone Masai had never seen before. The man wore black robes just like Masai's, but the man's robes appeared to be a much darker shade than his. Maybe that was just his imagination, or his mind simply associating it to be something darker, as this man was most likely the person Masai had been waiting for. He stood taller than Masai, and had a trimmed coffee-colored goatee and mustache. The man's gray eyes reflected a dark and iron-forged hardness. When the man spoke, His voice came out in a deeper register.
Who are you? What are you doing there?
Masai held up his hands in front of him, but he kept his back to the wall.
I mean you no harm. I wanted to see one of you for myself. My name is Masai Iados. I'm a new cleric.
The man continued to stand in the doorway, but his body visually relaxed a little. Some of the crispness eased from his voice.
I've heard about you from some of our allies. They say that you're not a traitor. Besides, you couldn't capture me even if you wanted to.
He moved inside and pointed to the gray body laying on the table.
Get the body.
4 tall, cloaked figures stepped into the room with heavy footsteps. They all wore obsidian robes, gloves, and boots, and they also had peculiar bronze masks over their faces. The masks had sharp lines that made up the nose and the mouth, and narrow slits for the eyes.
Are they Zur as well?
Not quite.
The man stopped and regarded Masai with a critical eye.
They're associates of mine. So did you get what you want? Are you satisfied with finally laying eyes on a Zur?
Masai took a couple of cautious steps toward the Zur, and he gave the man a pleasant smile.
Actually, I wanted to ask you some questions.
For what purpose?
To better understand who you are. I've heard so much about how terrible the Zur are for our society, and yet I don't believe it. On the other hand, I have no point of reference to alter that constant influx of public opinion. Not only that, but the concept of inner strife in our order unsettles me. I love this order. I love Anakanti. I hate how people regard her, and I think she deserves more understanding and support.
The 4 associates grabbed the body, but stopped once they had it. They froze like statues. The Zur stared at Masai for several seconds before speaking.
You're either a genuine disciple of Anakanti, or a damn good liar. If you're a liar, I'll kill you personally.
Masai took a deep breath.
Zur or not, I'm not scared of you, and I'm not a liar.
You're bold too. I like that. You might make a good Zur one day.
The man turned to his associates.
2 of you, let go of the body and watch the door.
Just as he commanded, 2 of the associates let go of the body and moved to block the only entrance to the chamber.
Are they slaves of yours?
The Zur shrugged.
They're zombie soldiers.
Zombie soldiers? Then it's true what they say. You Zur really do raise the dead in order to fight for you.
Masai stared at the Zur's minions.
It's a little more complicated than that, but for simplicity's sake, we do in fact raise the dead to fight for us.
He paused for a second and then extended his hand.
My name's Joyu Farasi.
Masai took the man's hand. The man squeezed with a tight grip, so Masai did his best to show his might in return.
I have several questions about the Zur.
As you said,
Joyu led him over to the counter. He leaned up against it and then gestured for Masai to continue.
I'm an open scroll.
So what are the Zur goals? Why do you exist?
Those are great questions, but they'll take a while to explain. Do you mind if I smoke a little?
Masai shook his head. Joyu took out a little sack from his side pouch. As soon as he opened the sack, a sweet smell filled the air. Joyu loaded some of the bag's contents into the bowl of a pipe. As soon as Joyu lit the pipe, a sweet, earthy fragrance filled the air. Joyu puffed on the end of his pipe, and little streams of smoke trailed up to the ceiling. When he breathed out, a stream of honey-colored mist came out past his lips.
I love this stuff. It's highly relaxing. Do you want some?
No thanks. I've never done hookah before.
Joyu smirked.
It's not hookah exactly, but I understand. So, what are the Zur goals? In the simplest explanation, we fight for Anakanti where others can't.
And the more complicated answer?
The more complicated answer has many different layers.
Joyu puffed his pipe and sent several smoke rings into the air.
You heard the Primary 5 are very interested in oppressing our order, right?
Yeah. Some of the other clerics mentioned we have an abundance of spies in our order. Spies who report to the Primary 5. They also told me about a secret war that's about to erupt.
Joyu nodded grimly.
Oh yes. The war hasn't started yet, per se. We've had skirmishes here and there, mostly raids on our bases of operation. Despite their feeble attempts, the Primary 5 haven't been able to stop our momentum. They may think they have a greater degree of success over us, but as any great military leader will tell you, war is about deception. The Zur exist to fight the primary five.
For what purpose? To wipe them out?
Not at all. That would be silly. The Zur don't want to destabilize the cosmos.
Joyu focused on Masai more intently.
We believe in balance in all things, especially the Enonochian pantheon. At the moment, things are not in balance. They've never been in balance, but things need to be aligned.
You mean because Anakanti isn't seen as a major goddess, right?
A bead of excitement throbbed within Masai's throat.
So, the Zur seek to fight long enough so she can take her rightful place among the other gods and goddesses?
That's right. Anakanti deserves to be as special and honored as the others. Anakanti can't wage this war for herself, so we wage it for her. We don't know the specifics, since great Anakanti can't tell us, but many of us believe the primary five betrayed her. Given that notion, we also fight for her revenge.
Betrayed? What do you mean? What makes you think there was an act of betrayal? One of the clerics mentioned the Zur have a trick for talking to the goddess. He mentioned you're able to be where you need to be, or where she supposedly wants you to be.
A devilish grin covered the Zur's face.
Maybe we do, maybe we don't. That's one of the many secrets the Zur hold tightly. I can't say exactly, but there has been regular correspondence between the goddess and some of our more prominent members.
Did you contact her while being in the necropolis?
It's the only place we can contact her.
Joyu puffed a little and held the smoke within.
I bet it's because of the obelisk. I was confused at first because it seemed silly to me that the primary five would have any effect on Lady Death. They can't restrict her, but Dia can.
Masai let his gaze go unfocused.
Are we certain the primary five are the real enemies? What if the goddess Dia was the one we should really be targeting?
Sotek was right about you. You are pretty clever. There are many of us who feel she is the main aggressor.
Do you know Sotek? Did he by chance train you also?
Joyu shook his head.
I'm not from Ijakos. Anyway, we believe that with sufficient leverage, we can force either the primary five or Dia to lift the restrictions.
But how are you actually going to accomplish this?
Masai gestured to the four zombies.
With them?
The zombies are a major part, but there are other components to our strategy.
Joyu took several more puffs and then forced the smoke out through his nose.
Remember, the Zur have been around for a long, long time.
Masai turned his attention back to the zombies.
I assume they're completely covered because of the way they look and smell, right?
Yes, we want to mask their appearance, but our zombies don't actually smell. We use special embalming techniques and spells to preserve their bodies in manners that best suit us.
Joyu let out another satisfied sigh.
Yet another trade secret.
Well, what will you use them for exactly?
If I tell you, do you swear upon your love for Anakanti you'll keep it to yourself? If any of the primary five found out about this, the entire order may be attacked.
I promise.
Joyu set his pipe down on the counter.
Normally, I wouldn't trust a new person with this kind of information, but we received several positive recommendations about you from some very reliable sources. Come closer.
Joyu grabbed hold of Masai and whispered into his ear.
We have an army of zombies scattered all over Enonoch. There are currently 2 zombies for every single soldier in the Pharaoh's army, and soon the undead armies of Anakanti will march over the land and take city by city. We'll burn the other temples until the primary five officially recognize Anakanti as a major goddess.
And if they refuse to do so, what if they fight back?
A grim grin covered Joyu's face.
Oh, we know they'll fight back. We're counting on it. This will be such a holy war, it'll change the face of Enonochian civilization. We're already anticipating standing against the Enonochian throne. We'll bring the Pharaoh to her knees if we have to.
Masai's eyes widened.
The Pharaoh? You plan to actually attack her?
Joyu shrugged.
Or him. Who knows who'll succeed the current ruler? You know how crazy the political machinations are in this country? The point is, for the glory of our goddess, yes, we'll take on the throne. My wife and daughter will no doubt be on the other side. My daughter can't help it. She's only 4 and will follow her mother. My wife is a soldier trainer.
Does she know about you being a Zur?
No, To them, I'm just a cleric of Anakanti who has to work very far from home, a lot. You'd be surprised how many of the clerics you see in temples and shrines are actually Zur. Unfortunately, you'd also be surprised to find out how many traitors there are.
The Zur let go of Masai and grabbed his pipe. He took several more puffs and then beheld Masai again.
Where will you stand, Cleric Iados?
I'll stand with Anakanti.
Good. I like you. I'd hate to have to fight you.
Joyu moved toward the door.
Grab the body.
Masai started after him.
Wait, I have more questions.
Joyu held up his hand.
Sorry, my friend. I'm long overdue. Don't try to follow me, but don't worry. We'll see each other again very soon, I'm sure.
The zombies grabbed the body and carried it from the room while Joyu watched. He turned to go, but then stopped and peeked back at Masai.
By the way, have you noticed any suspicious clerics yet?
Actually, I encountered one today. He was really strange.
Strange? How so?
I met an old man who thinks he's...
Oh, you met Naya. That poor old man.
Joyu shook his head.
I guess he's pretty famous, huh? The bishop said he lost his mind.
True, but did she tell you how he lost it?
Joyu walked a little closer to Masai.
Before Jayba Liliock went insane, he was renowned throughout the Order as a master embalmer. Back then, many anointed came to him for burial rites. Jayba had a granddaughter whom he loved with all of his being. However, an accident occurred, and the little girl died.
Joyu took another long drag of his pipe.
That's terrible.
Joyu let out the smoke in a long exhale.
It gets worse. Jayba did the embalming for his granddaughter. When he painted the symbol on her forehead, rather than have it turn gold, the girl's flesh turned gray.
All the moisture from Masai's throat vanished, and he struggled to wet it with spit.
How is that possible? Only the outright wicked turn gray.
That girl was outright wicked. Rumor has it that she killed small animals for fun and tormented the other children. There's even a story about how she defaced the Temple of Anakanti.
As hard as it was to believe, the test of the pure soul never judged incorrectly.
As soon as Jayba saw this, his mind snapped. When the Zur finally came to collect the little girl's body, they found Jayba on the ground, playing with embalming equipment like they were dolls. The girl's body was completely destroyed. Jayba wouldn't answer to his name either, but only to the name of his granddaughter.
Masai shook his head.
Why is he still allowed to embalm? Granted, I work with him today. He's good, but he's also very dangerous.
Joyu smiled.
You don't know the half of it. Jayba used to be the bishop, and he still has access to all of that death cleric power. They tried to stop him once before.
What happened?
Naya went on a crazy death cleric rampage. 11 clerics died. We had to bribe him with candy to make him stop. After that, they decided to let him do embalming anytime he wants.
Joyu turned to the door.
Wait for a few minutes before coming out, okay?
Masai nodded and waited, his mind full of new thoughts. After a moment, his thoughts boiled down to one question. Where would he stand in this great secret war?